distinguished audience, thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of this really amazing event that is the 13th anniversary of the fall of the wall of Berlin. And thank you also for having been given me the opportunity of learning so much these last 3 days from so wise ladies and gentlemen that you are. So my aim will be very modest, and I will just give you the impressions I had at the age of 18 when the Iron Curtain and the wall were falling down. Well, 18, that is the age where you discover really the world, where you get emancipated, when you are preoccupied with if the boy you had the crush on will go out with you, if your dad will let you go out, if you will have the opportunity of going to the university you chose, if you will study law or psychology. That was my case. So that are the main problems you have when you are growing up in a free country. And I realized at that time I get emancipated that Central and Eastern Europe also get emancipated, so that we have in common. And I realized at that age, let's say 88, 89, that not everybody had the same opportunities and the same possibility of having such a carefree life than I had. I realized at that age that there were people that were tortured and that were killed because they wanted just the same rights that were so normal for me. For me, it was awful when I had a fight with my dad or with my mom, but I never had other fights than that. I had the opportunity of growing up in a country without fear, without being afraid of saying what I wanted to say, where I had the opportunity of discovering the world like I wanted to do, and where I had the opportunity of studying what I wanted to do. So I realized at that age also that I should have been grateful for living up in the EU. Europe, I learned it in history, had a turbulent and tumultuous history, and that I should be proud of the EU and not be complaining about it. And we should also today all not be complaining about it. We should take pleasure and rejoicing to be in the EU. And we have to be proud of the EU because she did a big goal achieved. Because one of the most important achievements of the EU is that from my generation, we were the first one, and it was already said, who were growing up without any world war. We had the opportunity of living in peace. And like said Mr. Juncker, we had to be proud and grateful that we can bask in the sun of freedom. Freedom isn't something natural. I was free to choose the studies I wanted. I was free to discover the religion I wanted. I could read books about Buddhism, about the Quran. I could discover New Age if I wanted to. I could listen to the music I wanted to. I could travel where I want to. I could work in the country I want to. I had not have to any fear of living in any repression. And I took it since 88, 89 for granted, and I realized it wasn't granted. I realized also when I went to the university that the Germans who pushed open the doors leading to the collapse of the wall, that should never have been built and engendered today's EU without that, because they really led to the enlargement towards Eastern and Central Europe we have today. But at that time, we also had still a real combative frame of mind, and there was still a zone of potential conflict and confrontation. As I was a young girl, there were the good ones and the bad ones. It was white and black for me, till a certain moment when I became a responsible and critical student and a real self-thinking person. Till that moment, America and West Germany, West Europe were the good ones. Communism and USSR were the bad ones. We had to mistrust them, and they mistrusted us. There were still sources of potential conflicts. And, well, at that age, you are very influenced by arts. You are very influenced by music. And you are very influenced by films. It was already said by a former speaker yesterday that arts is one of the most important possibility of communication, is a real good thrill. And especially young people are very influenced by arts. So was I. I was a little bit fashioned by the US films about the Cold War and about spies and about the bad USS people. Well, just say few of that films. There was Rocky. Rocky was pushed down by a bad guy coming from Russia. There was the spy film, The Third Man, everybody knows. There was the Day of the Jackal. There was especially The Spy Who Came from the Cold. There was From Russia with Love. And there was The Man of Iron, just to say a few. There were not so many critical films at that time coming from the US. There was one, The Famous Day After, that fashioned me very much. That was a film where America was also criticized. It was a film where Russians and Americans both pushed the famous red button to put down the atomic bomb. And the film was about the day after, who was really the day after, because it was the end of the world to come to the end. There were also very few critical songs. There were few, but there were a lot of songs who also said that Russia, especially DDR, and all the East and Central Europe were the bad ones who put the walls. There were, for example, the song Nikita from Elton John, the poor guy who was in love with Russia border custodian, and he couldn't go back to see her. There was the song from Sting, Russia. He said, "Would they drop the bomb on us while we made love on the beach?" Well, you see, a 17-year-old girl is very influenced by those songs. But there were also other songs that were more critical. You have from Genesis songs where they sang about the world of confusion. Ronald Reagan didn't appreciate it because also he was criticized for not being open enough to the other side, let's say it like that. And I had the opportunity of listening to German singers who were much more critic. Well, they lived it also. And, well, there was the godmother of punk, Nina Hagen. I don't know if someone does know her, but a punk is for an 18-year-old girl who wanted to see till where she can go, and who loves to be a bit provocative. So, well, a punk, it's a real good person to listen to because she's provocative, and she was. And her father was Wolf Biermann, so she was good influence. Wolf Biermann was an East German dissident who was sent out of East Germany because he was too provocative, and, well, they couldn't get really rid of him, so they preferred to let him go out. And he took Nina Hagen, his daughter, with him, and she grew up so in the Western Europe. There was Udo Lindenberg. He still exists. He is also a quite provocative German singer who had songs like Horizont, means a horizon between the wall. And he has his famous Sonderzug nach Pankow. Pankow is in East Germany, and the song is about, well, little Udo is his first name. Little Udo wanted to go to East Germany, to Pankow, but Honecker doesn't want, so he's a little bit cynical, and he asked to go to the East Germany in his very personal way. There were East German groups who had very critical songs also, and we had the opportunity in Luxembourg to listen to those songs. There's a song from a group called Silly, means what it means, and the song is intitulated SOS, and it quotes, "Immer noch schwimmt da vorn der Eisberg, nur die Spitze ist zu sehen. Immer noch träumen wir von Heimkehr und vertrauen dem Kapitän." To make it brief, it's like the Titanic. there is still an iceberg who swims and we just see the top of it, but we still dream to come home, and we have trust in our captain. Means also what it means. There is it's another song from Gerhard Schöne, and he was singing about maybe we are also responsible for not being too persuasive, for not fighting enough for our freedom. So he questioned himself very much. And these songs also allowed me to question much more things, because I get aware that there were more, and I get aware that I had an influence, because it's people like you, like me, normal people who can push up politicians. Well, here are lots of politicians, but politicians, first of being politicians, they are human beings, and they should never forget it. So we can change things, and we can do things. So that is what pushed me also to get engaged in human rights. I can say Germany is a little bit responsible if I am what I am today, because they made me understand, not only they, but all the people from Central and Eastern Europe that fight for their freedom made me aware that I can reach aims if I really want it and I really fight it. And I think it is also now my duty, because they fight also for me, for my freedom. I never should take it for granted. That it's my duty today that support the freedom and every person that is repressed. And music did follow me after the wall was falling, because everybody knows the song Wind of Change from Scorpions. It became the hymn of the falling wall. And a very provocative song, Another Break in the Wall from Pink Floyd, is also becoming a hymn from the falling of the wall, because they played it just in front of the wall in '88. And well, there is one singer, I think everybody knows him, who thinks he's responsible for the fall of the wall. That is the Hoff, David Hasselhoff, with his famous song Looking for Freedom. Well, he sung it at the wall for New Year's Eve, 2 months too late, but that's a little detail for him. But anyway, it was quite amusing, and if he thinks it, so let we sing him it. And the night the wall was falling, people also did sing in the streets. They sang in the chorus songs everybody knows. Well, it's a famous German song, Griechischer Wein und so ein Tag so wunderschön wie heute. But especially that song, So ein Tag so wunderschön wie heute, means a day such beautiful as today. They really enjoyed it with music, and music does not always be used in wars, but music does also accompany freedom. And thus, you see, the arts, and especially songs and painting, it has such a power of expressing courageous ideas and ideals, and it's had such an influence on especially young people. So I think we should really support it, and I tried to make you understand how important it was for me and how courageous also those artists were, because especially in the East, they really risked to pay the higher price for it. But another thing that really influenced me, and I already said it, were those people, those millions of people who risked their life for freedom. I think we all remember those people who was climbing up on the top of the wall in '89. But we don't have to forget that it started before '89. In August '89, a human chain, it was already said, of nearly 2 million of people have formed a chain of 600 kilometers across Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And that was so courageous, because when there was a wave of democratization that was blowing over Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia, the Soviets still yoked the countries of Baltic. So they really risked their lives by doing that, but they did it anyway. And that did impress me so much, and it still has not to lost his dimension. It still is a legend for me, and I really dare to compare it to the non-violent opposition advocated in that time by Mahatma Gandhi. And in March 89, protesters gathered in Budapest also to ask for democracy. In June 89, there were the first democratic elections in Poland, and Solidarność win at that moment. I was really impressed. I was much more impressed when Lech Walesa really came to the power and when he had the opportunity of repressing him themselves and when we discovered all what we did discover. In September 89, Hungary allows East Germany refugees to stay in their country or to leave to the BRD, and 13,000 did. October 89, 70,000 demonstrants were in Leipzig, DDR, and they said, "Wir sind das Volk. We are the people. We have the power. We can do it." In 89, October the 18th, Honecker resigns finally. And, well, in the 4th November 89, more than 1 million people gathered for a demonstration on Alexanderplatz in East Berlin, and the wall finally falls on the 9. On the 17th of November, the Velvet Revolution came in Czechoslovakia. Romania followed, well, a little bit more violent in December. And finally, in 90, the unification of Germany was celebrated, and in 91, the USSR disappeared. So this means that 30 years after, Europe really became an open and free world, and what seemingly was invincible became permeable and physically disappeared. We were all one Europe. For certain, they joined the EU, for others they will come. And like said Gerhard Schröder, human destiny is what human beings make of it. So it was already said several times, and I beg your pardon if I will repeat it, but I think it's really, really important to point it out. We now have to turn our attention to the challenges of the 21st century. We didn't achieve it all by now. We cannot just say, wow, great, now we have freedom, now we are all in peace. No. There are lots of walls that are falling down, but there are more walls that still remains and that we have to overcome. And there will be always people and individuals that will continue to build walls for their personal aim or for idealistic aims. But there will be people. And I think it's our duty that we have continuously to do efforts to overcome those walls, and we have to work still together to accomplish that, because we have to do it together. We cannot do it on ourselves. And, well, I am somebody very optimistic, so I just will say, so let's do it, and yes, we can. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Claudia, for the interesting and emotional statement in a positive sense. Follow any questions? Questions? Well, you will be living on that time that is going to happen. Have you any anticipation on that time?
Anticipation of
what? That the wall will be broken, or that is coming, etc., etc.
Well, as I came.
What was your feeling on that?
Well, as I came this morning over here, I had discussion with my taxi driver who came from Palestine.
Yeah.
So I think we have still much more challenges to do. There are still lots of people who are fleeing wars and who are fleeing torture because they wanted to be free. I am ombudsman, so I have to deal with lots of refugees. They came nearly every day to my office, and they claim to stay in a free country. And they claim to stay in a country not only where they can have freedom, but also a country where they have the possibility of having the opportunity of studying, of having a life in dignity. So I am afraid of that, because there are more and more. And I think we really have to do what we can. We have that duty. We cannot say our fathers and grandfathers did their duty, so well, let's stay calm in front of our fire and have a good time and have a glass of wine and just be peaceful. No, we have to help those people. I think it's our duty to help them.
Okay?